Hi, this is Sean. So, thought I'd make a video about Vinted. I like Vinted. I think it's great. I think in terms of like being a buyer and being a seller, and then like showing a duffel coat that I bought from Vinted to kind of illustrate the points that I'm making. So, in terms of being a buyer on Vinted, I'm gonna write these things down as I say them, so I remember what I've said. So one thing I would say is, for me, it's kind of a no-brainer to buy things from Vinted. Um, I I like brands, so like I like preppy style clothes, and like Ralph Lauren and brands like that. And there's so many of those things available that you might as well try Vinted. And I think Ralph Lauren's trying to become like a super luxury brand or something. So things are going up in price all the time. And if you're looking for a shirt, for example, the latest thing that I bought from Vinted was a Ralph Lauren corduroy shirt, which our new RRP is like 120 or something like that. I think it was £15. It's in perfect condition. So why would you not do that? And in terms of being eco-friendly, you're taking someone's waste and making it a product, as opposed to buying something that has to be made. I mean, it's been made anyway, but and I just think, I can't think of a reason why you wouldn't try Vinted if you hadn't already done so. Particularly if you're into certain styles of clothing. I'm not like a box fresh type of guy, so the idea that my clothes don't look new, and I find it very difficult to kind of keep things in a new looking condition. So even more of a reason for me to use Vinted, because I don't mind things not looking new. Obviously, I wouldn't go on Vinted and buy kind of stained and clothes with holes in them and things like that. And I do think I wouldn't wear clothes with holes in them. I do like to look presentable, but I think you can still do that on Vinted completely. And yeah, it just seems like a no-brainer to me. I mean, if you can think of any reason not to use Vinted, hit me in the comments. Yeah, I can't. I'm currently wearing a pair of jeans from Vinted, for example. Um, Having said that, one thing that does kind of pop into my head is, um, be prepared for smelly things if you buy from Vinted. It's kind of a bit horrible, but when you get clothes in particular from Vinted, well, only clothes, they do smell of other people, which is a bit weird. You obviously wash them before you wear them, and wash them twice if you need to, and things like that. It depends what it is. But within reason, don't expect clothes to arrive feeling like new clothes, because they won't do. That's part of the point of this sort of thing. You've got to adjust, I guess, to that, and the whole different experience of buying clothes and buying things secondhand. It's exciting buying something new, and you get a package from the company that you bought it from. And if it's a really expensive and desirable thing, the packaging's better, and that's part of the experience, really. And I still go for that in some cases, but it's not like that from Vintage. You might get, I mean, as a seller, the way I send the clothes is probably not ideal. I don't put any effort into the packaging whatsoever. It's not about aesthetics for me. I just package it up and send it in the best way that I can. I've never had any complaints, but yeah, I mean, you've got to wash the stuff. I mean, if it's a coat or something like that, I try to avoid that, because coats are more difficult to wash. They're easier to ruin when you do wash them, and sometimes might need to have them dry cleaned and things like that, which is a bit of a pain. But it's just a case of washing things. Yeah, and just be prepared for that. I mean, you do get clothes that don't smell bad, but they smell like another person, which is a bit weird. Another thing is, if you're buying from Vinted, you will make mistakes. and the mistakes tend to be more than if you're just buying new clothes. The only mistake you can really make, well, no, you can not suit things and things like that, but the only real mistake is sizing with new clothes. When buying from Vinted, it's much more difficult because you've got to factor in how the clothes wash and things like that. So one of the most recent things that I bought from Vinted was a Ralph Lauren jumper, and it was like a Breton style sweater with buttons on the shoulder, and it's part of the latest collection, Ralph Lauren. It's actually a different jumper. I thought it was the exact same one, but it isn't, because the newest one had like a thing on the arm. But when it came, it's a medium, and I'm really confident in my sizing with Ralph Lauren. I know exactly how the different sizes fit, slim fit and custom fit, that sort of stuff. When it came, it had clearly been washed, which made it smaller, and it made it borderline whether it fit me. I've bought a lot of things on Vinted that didn't end up fitting me, which I thought they would, and that's in both directions, too big and too small. Just put them straight on Vinted, you get your money back, and it's not a big deal. And I think it's a good thing because it actually allows you to try things out that you wouldn't normally try. The thing that I'll show later is a duffel coat, a Gant duffel coat. I really like duffel coats. I think they're cool, even though they're really kind of like cheesy and geeky. But I do think they're cool, and I really like the idea that it's like a traditional design, and often it's made out of traditional materials like wool and things like that. And this, the Gant duffel coat, I'm guessing it would have been what, £400, £450, something like that. 70% wool, 10% cashmere. I probably would have never bought that from the shop, but £30, thought I'd try it, and I really, really like it. And I think that's the good thing about Vinted. You can take a bit more of a risk with the things that you buy. I mean, it's not a risk because we're not talking about living in a war zone or whatever, but you might not want to spend so much money on something, and you can normally get things for cheaper. And that's the good thing. I mean, I've made mistakes in terms of bought things that have been too small. I've even done things like bought a shirt that was a woman's shirt and it had darts on the back, and it was deliberately made for a woman's body, so I couldn't wear it. But it wasn't listed as that and things like that. So you've got to be a little bit careful, be willing to ask questions, but be polite, because that's really important as well. I mean, that's not me. That's me being facetious, because as a seller, I've had people not being polite, and it didn't endear them to me and make me want to help them. But yeah, that idea of making mistakes is a good thing, and I think it also allows you to play around a little bit more with your style. I mean, I really like tank tops, as they call them in the UK, sweater vests as they call them in the US. And I'd never bought a sweater vest or tank top until I started using Vinted. But the brands that I like, I mean, a Ralph Lauren sweater vest is like £350 or something ridiculous like that, whereas on Vinted you can pick one up for £30. And yeah, let's just be a bit more adventurous, I guess, with your style, which is something that I like. It also allows you to be a bit more of an individual. Those things might not be available in the shops anymore, and vintage and things like that. It's something that I think is a really good thing for style, for the environment, and for consumerism more generally. I sometimes struggle to keep my spending under control, and Vinted has helped in that way, because the things are just cheaper, so you have more scope for buying things that are not going to cost you an arm and a leg and not drain your bank account so much. Anything else for being a buyer? I think that's important. Contact with sellers. Are you asking them questions and things like that? I think you're okay to ask questions. I mean, one thing when I was looking for a duffel coat was, is this made out of wool? What material is it made out of? Vinted does ask you to put pictures of the labels. Not everyone does that, and not everyone does it really well. So it's fine to ask questions. I just think that it's good to be polite. You know, hi, I have a question about this item. Is that okay? And things like that. Whereas you do get people who don't know how to talk to people, so they're not so polite. And that's the frustrating thing, I think, as a seller, but as a buyer as well. You know, you're not necessarily, you don't know the people, and they've got no inherent incentive for being nice. But Vinted tends to be pretty good. You know, people do tend to be really nice. I've never had any bad experiences on Vinted so far. Whereas I have had bad experiences on eBay, people trying to screw me over and people trying to get something for nothing, which does also link to being a seller as well. I can't think of anything else in terms of being a buyer. I think those are the main things. I mean, I really, really like Vinted. I think it's changed the way I kind of think about clothes. And at one time, I would buy very, very few things secondhand, but now I would try anything really secondhand. I mean, some things I wouldn't probably buy secondhand unless it was absolutely pristine condition. But other things, you know, you might as well give it a try because you can just sell it again on Vinted. And it is like, we do need to do something about overconsumption, and Vinted's not necessarily doing that because we're still consuming, but it is a step in the right direction, I do think. As a seller, I think this is probably going to be like a moany section about my experiences as a seller. I think as a seller, price things kind of how you want, for the price you want them to be. But that's a bit of a silly thing to say, really. I do think as a seller, don't expect to get full price for things. I mean, I think you tend to get people who expect to get like cost price for the things on Vinted, which is ridiculous, really. But from a buyer's perspective, they often want to buy things for 30 pence, and that's also not appropriate. I think the best thing about Vinted is when people are selling things for an appropriate price and both the seller and the buyer are getting a good deal out of it. I mean, that's why you're selling the things. I know a lot of people use Vinted just to clear out their wardrobe. I don't necessarily use it for that reason. I do want to like invest and turn over clothes that I'm not wearing anymore. So like, the idea of selling lots and lots of things for £2 a pop or whatever is not the way I approach it. I do try and put things on for kind of the price that I feel like they're worth, and therefore I can, you know, buy the next thing. But I know some people don't work like that. So I think from a seller's perspective, like, price things appropriately is important. I think another thing as like a seller that I've thought is like, say like, don't be afraid to tell people no. So like, you do get people, for example, yesterday somebody bought a shirt for a few pounds. I'm saying, will you post it today? I'm like, no, because it's snowing and I don't want to as well. Vinted gives you like 7 days to be able to post it. And then they said tomorrow, question mark. You know, not, hi, I'm really looking for this to arrive by Wednesday because I've got this event or whatever, just tomorrow. So I replied, you know, I will post this within the terms that Vinted stipulate. If you don't like this, please feel free to cancel it. You know, it's not Amazon, I'm not Asda, I'm not a multinational corporation. I do not need to rush about for you. If you want something next day delivery, go to one of those companies. And if you want something that has absolutely no marks or flaws on it, go to a shop that sells new clothes. I think that's the frustrating thing for me about Vinted. People want something for nothing, and that can be really frustrating. And also people asking for different postage methods and things like that, even though I've set my settings to not have those for a reason. So that's the frustrating thing being a seller. I think another thing is just don't expect things to sell really, really quickly. As you may or may not know, you probably nobody who's watching this video, but as you may or may not know, I like Swatch watches. There's a few Swatch watches on Vinted. They are not selling. You know, they're just not selling, and you know, you can obviously reduce the price and things like that, or you can just wait. There's two options, or you can take them off and not sell them. I've actually been really, really lucky with Vinted. Normally, when I put something on for sale, it sells really, really quickly. I think the reason is because I price things appropriately and I like branded stuff. So brands kind of sell more quickly. But you've just got to be prepared to wait a little bit. And if you do want X or Y price for it, you've just got to wait and stick to your guns, if you like. Yeah, so that's it really. I mean, I really, really like Vinted. I think it's a really, really good change in terms of the way people can buy clothes. I think it allows people to express themselves a little bit more in terms of their clothing. Charity shops are great in terms of like reusing things, but I've never ever found any decent clothes in charity shops because, for better or worse, it's often a dead person's clothes that are of a certain generation and things like that. Whereas Vinted is really good because you can literally search for anything you want to, and it shows you two things really: that there is so much waste in clothing, but also that thing that you saw in 1992 that you've still been dreaming about all that time, you will find it. I mean, it's like that cord shirt. I was looking over Christmas. I obviously I like preppy clothes, so the Ralph Lauren one was $120, and I like J Crew as well, so theirs was $120, and one pops up on Vinted. I think another thing to suggest as a buyer, if you're looking for clothing, go on the recommended items and scroll through them, because the algorithm's quite really good for suggesting things, and if it's based on your search and things like that. So I'm pretty predictable in terms of my taste. I'm pretty set in the taste that I have in clothes, and it is good for finding things that might be suitable for you as well. So the next bit, I'm just going to introduce the coat that I bought just to illustrate the points that I've been making. Yeah, so this is it. So this is the Gant Duffel coat. It's I think it's black. Is it? I haven't checked. It's 70% wool, 10% cashmere. It's really, really cool. I love it. It's kind of made me realise that like wool is really warm. I know that's a ridiculous thing to say, but this is like made in Portugal. There seems to be like two different ranges from Gant, because I've seen another one with the branding on the front and it didn't look as high quality, but this is really, really high quality. I think traditionally duffel coats have like tartan lining. This doesn't. But it has like inside pockets and things like that. We're in the Casio, the gold Casio. And I've been really, really impressed with it. It's like wearing a blanket. It's dead comfortable. I was a bit embarrassed to get a duffel coat at first because, Paddington Bear and you look like a bit of a geek. But I really, really enjoy wearing it. So as I said, this one's 70% wool and 10% cashmere. I don't know whether you ever get like 100% wool coats, but that's a shame that you don't. And I'm thinking about just going completely natural fibres, just because it's, apparently it's not as eco-friendly, but yeah. And this is me modelling said duffel coat. I think it looks cool. Obviously, there could be maybe a more handsome model, but I really, really like wearing it. It's just really comfortable. Like, I would really recommend duffel coats if you haven't already got one. It's got a hood. It's got big pockets. It's not got any kind of hand warmer pockets, but if you like the video, please subscribe and let me know about any of your Vinted experience. Thanks, bye.